facing head-on the emotions beneath the surface as we bridge from an old world of confusion and lack to a beautiful new world of freedom, abundance, and love with straightforward truth and inspired hope is what you'll find on The Charla Anderson Show. Collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating. Here's your host, Charla Anderson.
Good, beautiful day, you beautiful, beautiful souls. This is Charla Anderson, host of the Charla Anderson Show, collector and connector of fascinating people. And everyone is fascinating, especially you. I'm very grateful that you would be joining us, listening in today. This is the 51st show, the finale of season 1 of the Charla Anderson Show. Can you believe that? I can hardly fathom that. And this is exciting because we're going to enter into season 2 next week, which is next month. So we've got lots and lots of news, lots of things going on, and so grateful that you would take the time to pay attention, listen, feel some hope, and listen to the story so we all work together and love each other through these unsteady times. So we're on Win Win Women platform, and International Women's Day is coming up. So we're doing a lot around that. And so that's March 8th, I believe. So keep that in mind. Keep an eye out. I'm intending to launch a workshop coming up in the next month or so. I want to start doing a little bit more workshops and teaching along that line. So keep your eyes out for that. And I have an amazing guest today, Tracy Smoak. But before I introduce her, we're going to do my little mini vacation that we typically do on every one of my shows, just to take a deep breath, be still and know. So what I do is have us breathe in calm for 7 seconds. We're going to hold for 4, and they're going to breathe out gratitude and just listen, get settled, and enjoy the next 22 seconds. Here we go. Breathe in, calm. Hold. Release. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I heard once, if the only prayer you ever say is thank you, it's enough. And gratitude is the absolute key to living a satisfied life. Not just my opinion. It's been proven. So there. Anyway, Tracy Smoak is joining me today, and she has, I've just been, we connected through a mutual friend. It's just kind of a odd connection. I had no idea anything about her until I started listening to some of her podcasts, which is called Insider Tips. And she's got some amazing stuff going on here. And then she's a photographer and does beautiful photography. And she's an author of many books, or several books at least, that have photographs. And then now she's author of a novel. And they're faith-based, or Christian genre, and just amazing backstories as well. So especially in this novel, I believe we address some tough topics. So Tracy Smoak, give me an introduction of who you are in this world. And then we'll talk about what you do.
Charla, thank you for the invite. And I love the theme of your show is impossibilities, but no more. It's seeing what is possible. And the last couple of years, it's like my whole identity has completely shifted. For many years, I was a mom, I was a housewife. Then I went back to school and got my teaching degree, and I taught English for several years. And then a couple years ago, that shifted, and I wasn't in the classroom anymore. And it's like, who am I now? You know, my kids are grown. It was a frightening time, and I don't know how many of the other win-win women, you know, so often we identify ourselves by our relationships, But at some point, it's kind of, maybe part of it is my age, but it's like, well, I've got a limited amount of time left. Who do I want to be? And the dream of writing and publishing, I had that when I was little, but it just seemed too impossible, And there were always other needs that needed to be met. There were more responsible things to do. So the last couple years when I left the classroom, at first I was just devastated because I loved being with the youth. I liked the way they challenged, the way they taught me different things, the way they opened my perspective. But then I had time to write, and I went to a writer's conference in 2021. And then by January of 2022, I had 2 book contracts. So for the last couple of years, I've had a devotional released that's God's Promises. And then I have a novel, Who Brought the Dog to Church? And then I have 2 picture devotionals with nature art photography. And another devotion is in production now. It's under contract for Treasures of the Wise, with a foreign coin collection that I have from my grandmother, my father, and also from students who've traveled around the world. So the things that I thought were closed doors actually were an invitation to turn and look at something new, and to have the courage to try something new. You and I were talking about all the technology that's involved just in a podcast, which seems simple if we're on the other side just watching it, but it's a little intimidating sometimes. Is the camera on? Is the audio on? Is the light right? So thank you. What questions might you have, or how do you think we can encourage some of our ladies listening or watching today?
That's a great question. So I was so relating because, I was a flight attendant for 34 years. I was a mother of 3 kids, 3 stepkids. I mean, we were the house that people, the pool, right? So, and when I retired 16 years ago, and it's like my kids were out of school, who am I? When you have an identity as what you do, who you are is a little bit skewed. You don't even know necessarily. So I so relate to this, who am I? And I believe that is a key to what's a lot of us going through this little bit later stages of life are like, is this all there is? Who am I? I was this, but now I'm that. And I thought I didn't even know a networking world existed. So I'm out there collecting all the business cards I can collect, and still no idea what I was doing and who I was, and, but I never lost optimism. I never lost bold faith. Who I say I am is bold faith, no fear. Who I am is outrageously optimistic. Who I am is loving the people in front of me. My message is unconditional love, loving the people in front of me, right? So that we can love them through these unsteady times. And I have a caveat, and the harder they are to love, the more they need it. So I'm sure you recognize that. But so I'm just tagging on to what you were saying about the identity that a lot of us don't really know. And so I'm looking towards naming mine even now at age 70 to just, try to put a title on it, so to speak. So I'm kind of interested in the idea of legacy builders, legacy. It's, if this all there is that we've spent our whole life doing. So you're anyway, that just came to me as about really tagging on. I think a whole lot of us in this later stages are either going through that or trying to figure that out too.
I love the word legacy. Like, what are we collaborating on? What are we helping create that has has viability beyond us. I've been very fortunate in my life that I've been around many different generations of women. Right now, I'm part of a Bible study group. It's a small group, but 4 of the women are in their mid 80s. And I just turned 60, and they give me such wisdom. And some of the things I want to get all in a snit about, they just laugh and they give me another 25 years ahead of perspective. And it's like, oh, okay. When I was growing up, my nickname was Miss Perfection. Everything had to be perfect. And I still fight that now, especially exploring new things. Because when we explore, when we attempt something that's impossible, that we've not done before, if we expect that to be perfect the first time, we're already set up for failure. So I love being around people like you that say, well, I don't know how this works, but let's try. I'll help you. My daughter-in-law, she's such a good mom. And they have a 2.5-year-old little girl, red hair, and they're expecting another baby in April. And my daughter-in-law is at that phase now where I just think she doesn't feel really good. You know, she's tired and she's trying to run after this very active toddler. And I can go back in my mind to when I was at that phase, and I was concerned because the laundry didn't get done, and I didn't know how to fix dinner without burning it because I was running to get so-and-so. And the car was like a sandbox because there was so much stuff in the floor mats. You could have a playground there. And it's like, when I think back on that now, the time with children is so fleeting. And I know you said you've spent a lot of time with grandchildren and that you've had 30 somethings, you know, in your house. And, you know, I don't think it matters what age, there's something we can embrace from each other at each phase. And I guess if I could talk to my younger self, I would say, Tracy, if you want to grow, you've got to screw up and be okay with that. And maybe looking forward to my older self, you know, whatever gift of time I have, looking ahead to my older self and saying, your vulnerability, your willingness to say, I screwed up, I don't know how to do this, that creates a legacy of empowerment where other people are willing to try.
Exactly that. And perfection there really is just pretty much no such thing, right? So and honestly, I've been in this conversation the last day or two with emails, and I was like, I really appreciate the stand for excellence. I want excellence. I don't want blatant mistakes in my, in my work or in my books or whatever. I want excellence, but that doesn't mean perfection. It means you're striving to, get it out there. And then if you know Seth Godin, he wrote, I don't know, Purple Cow or whatever, he wrote a ton of books, but he's like, ship it. Done is better than not, right? So, or I mean, executed. So get it done and do something. And I'm so in awe of all the people that I seem to be attracting and have around me in my mostly online world, but I'm having people at my house this week. It's going to be interesting. So I'm in awe of so many wanting to make a difference, and I feel like we're lifting each other up by this. It's like the tide rises, all the boats rise, right? When we do, and when somebody can witness the kind gestures or the kindness or the less than when we can maintain our integrity and our dignity through our daily walk. I think it's a big deal. And so I said legacy, but I'm really thinking about creating a group along that line, because as a Zig Ziglar legacy certified trainer, that is their big deal. Zig Ziglar was, worth following, right? And his kids are creating something. And so I anybody who writes a book, and that certainly includes you and me, we're leaving legacies. And we're leaving legacies whether we want to or not, right? Whether they're intentional or default, something is left. But those of us that are more intentional, could have 2 or 3 generations, perhaps, still have an idea who Nanny was, or who Charla was, or who Tracy was, right? They'll have something besides a list of TV guides. A stack of old TV guides, remember those? But
it'll be virtual reality. They'll have artificial, and they'll have the headsets. I love science fiction, and I've been reading some of those lately, where the mind games, and where people are just escaping into a virtual reality. But when you were talking about legacy and excellence, I think sometimes people underestimate what they're actually achieving, particularly with women. One of my dear friends, I have so much respect for her. She's a full-time teacher. She has 5 grown children. She has grandchildren. She sponsors a very active robotics club at her school and in the district. And she's also just committed to bringing an elderly relative from assisted living into her home for round-the-clock care. Now, you say, well, what's that legacy? I think in some ways, conventional logic would say, well, you've got a career, you've got a job, you've got all these things to do, there's resources available. But she's prioritizing love and the need of someone who's least able to do for herself anymore. And, like caring for the little ones. You're not going to get a trophy because you change the diaper 3 times in the morning, and you give the child Cheerios, and you take them for a stroller walk in a buggy. I don't know that that's on CBS Nightly News for commendation. But when you think about legacy, the lives touched with the simple constancy of being available emotionally, physically, spiritually, what does that do in ripple effects to turn our focus outwardly in what might seem a simple gesture that really does have impact?
Well, certainly to the starfish that does get thrown back into the water, right? So the person, it becomes a tricky situation when we're dealing with that taking care of our seniors. And I am one. But I ain't stopping either, so don't, I'm not going there. But so I just had my matriarch of my family, my sister that's 10 years older than me, just passed in January, and so incredibly divinely in December, she and her best friend named sister got to be guests on my show because someone canceled, and I was at her house, and it just kind of worked out. Now, do you think her legacy, if I've got her newspaper, at least front page, whole page, she was a leader, owned the Century 21 office on the square in her town, Granbury, Texas, and she was iconic. And her message, one of the things she said, and she would want us to do in light of her, even it was very unexpected, for her to leave us. But she said one of her biggest pieces of advice is build a bridge and get over it. just keep going and laugh. And her laughter could be heard. People would go, Shirley's here. Yeah, so, so the legacy that she has left because she chose to live a full, big, all in life. Was she perfect? No. Was she excellent? Yes. Anyway, I bring her up because she's, there's a big void, not just in my life and not just in my sister's lives, but in her kids' lives, but in the whole community of that area.
Mm-hmm. I think about advice like Shirley gave you, build a bridge and then get over it. One of the things that my dad tells me and told me as a little kid is can't never could. We're Southern. Can't never could. But that ties back in with your theme on this podcast. It's like, what are we afraid of? What seems impossible? But if we take one plank and we do one section to build the bridge, there's like, hey, well, look, we did that. We can do one more. And then before we know it, we're on the other side of something that's amazing. I know with the photography, I went yesterday to one of the local parks, and it's the first time I've been able to go in months because I had this back injury in last summer that hyperextended all the lower ligaments. So I was housebound for almost 3 months and battling the pain and the aloneness and the fear, like, will I ever get better? Can I handle this pain? Learning to entertain myself while everybody else is at work and I can't just jump in my car and take off. But yesterday there was a couple seated along waterfront and they were on a bench and they were overlooking the cypress marsh and the waves were just coming in easy. And I said, well, would you guys like a picture? This is the perfect setting. And they're, yes, please. So they gave me their cell phone and I said, well, I'm a photographer, so I'll do the best I can to get the light just right. And they were so appreciative. But for me to say I'm a photographer is crossing over a bridge because I've never had formal training. I did yearbook when I was in high school. I love pictures. We had those little disposable cameras, that you'd have to take to CVS to get the film developed. But like the backdrop here is one that I took at a garden a few months back. And it's like when you were saying earlier, the importance of words that we speak into existence, whether conscious or not, something that's going to be a beneficial legacy or what might be poverty. So when we say, I can, that's speaking into existence a future that has potential. And I love beauty. And I love going on these little nature safaris and taking pictures because I want to share what's beautiful. And I think that if we start looking for beauty instead of problems, the world becomes a different place. And it's really not any different. It's how we choose to focus.
Amazing. And what you're doing. And so you've done a lot in the last 2 years. You have how many books? 5? And that's a lot. And doing this and say, I am a photographer because I was trying to express this before the show. And I was like, who I am is bold faith, no fear. Who I am is outrageously optimistic. And what I say is who I am in that split second moment. That's who I am. I am outrageously courageous right this moment. And whatever you say over and over is who you become. If you say I am tired enough times, you live tired. And you could change that one word, split second transformation, change your words, change your life. That one word could be, I'm refreshed. I'm energized. I'm pumped. and your environment, you literally, physiologically, things shift because your words shift. Speak what you want, not what you don't want. Every word matters. And this is a huge theme in my work. So to me, the I am is the breath of life. It's God's breath. God's name is I am. And so when we say that, we're claiming we're claiming it, as him and entering in our life. And every breath, if you can take a breath, you are okay in this moment. I don't care if you're in the gutter or if you're in the, Taj Mahal. It doesn't matter. If you can take a breath, you are okay in this split second. You have been provided for up to this moment in time. And I don't think we take time to really consider how valuable and that is, and how important our words are. And so what I've noticed, or what I've found and discovered in your work, and I'm going to shift to that because those meditations or short relaxation tapes with beautiful pictures that you have, I want people to know where to find you and go on YouTube and listen to some of these beautiful, relaxing, peaceful scenarios that you can just watch. There's words, some of them have audible words and some of them print. It's really lovely. And that's called, let's say how can people find you first of all, so we can start putting that in there and spell your name, because it's doesn't
That's
sound
sweet.
like it's
Well, all of the YouTube videos, they're shorts, they're like 1 minute. And it was just me expressing gratitude for the beauty that I've been able to see. So it's Tracy, Tracy, Smoak, SM as in Mary, OAK. That's on YouTube. And I think in the content, if you'll put in the text, there'll be a link so people don't have to hunt for it. One of the books is Living Water to Refresh Your Soul, and that's all lake scenes and lakeshore. One of the others is Arranged with Love, and it's floral landscapes. But I've been so lucky to have a lot of life adventures. One of which is I taught for a year in a maximum security prison for young men, and cried every morning on the way to work because I was scared. But I had made some choices, and that was the job that opened, and it ended up being a wonderful learning opportunity for me. But one of the gentlemen there, who was the head of security, he was a former gangster himself. And one day I was talking with him, and I just said, I can't do this. I'm too weak. And he stopped and looked at me and he said, how are you going to be weak with the spirit of the Almighty God in you? And I was like, whoa, whoa. And I know people have different,
speak it.
yeah,
Claim
people
it.
have different faith backgrounds, and some people have really been wounded in faith environments. So being sensitive to that, I think that's part of, for me, being in nature. It's just quiet, and I can connect with something larger and more powerful and more beautiful than I am. Yesterday when I went in that park, I wish I could tell you that I'm fearless. I face a lot of fear. And it's like I get through with one fear and then there's another one staring right at me. But yesterday, the first fear I faced was with my back. It's the first time I'd walked in a park in months. And it's like, will my back hold up? Am I going to get spasms? Am I going to be able to do this? How far can I walk? And then it was a new trail. So I was trying to find like the markings on the trail. Some of it was open, like plains, like old Florida sandy terrain. Some of it followed the water line. Some of it went through the woods. And I was like, am I going to get lost? What if I go on the wrong trail? And then it was beautiful, warm, sunshiny day. And I'm thinking, Florida has critters. I'm kind of watching where I'm walking because I don't want to meet a new friend unexpected. And I had all these fears in my head. And I had to just stop and say, Tracy, this is an opportunity just take one step at a time. And I had a beautiful, peaceful afternoon. I met the couple I took the picture of. I didn't get lost. I didn't see any critters I didn't want to see. I got some great pictures. But if I had stayed home and let those tapes of fear hold me hostage, I would have missed out on a lot. So for other women like me, we want to be courageous, we want to be strong, but the reality is sometimes we're not, and that's okay. Just one step at a time, one new experience, one new encounter, one new friend, and those bridges are going to get where they're like what is it? The Golden Gate Bridge, the huge one.
So when a couple of things, one of them that I would say about 4 years ago, I started making video after video and going, be prepared, not scared. Be prepared, not scared. There's so much more going on than meets the eye, and I'm not going to live in this fear. And I was like, really, everybody's wallowing in fear. I was just shocked that it happened, that so many people succumb to the fear. Because if there was a pendulum and we've got God and love, and what's not God and love, what is the evil side, fear, love and fear, they're the opposites, not love and hate, love and fear. And so if there's a pendulum and it's swinging to the side of the fear, it's not of love and God. And just to remember that if I'm feeling fearful, then I've kind of released my power. Jesus said we can do what he did and even more. How many times have you heard that from the pulpit? Not a lot in my upbringing. So if we can do what he did and even more, that's a lot. I mean, he could do everything. So when we claim that, it's the authority, when we claim our authority to be able to my book, I stepped towards a gun. I had out, and said, you need love. And they ran. I had no fear when I did that because I stood in my authority that I'd been given. And something else that came to mind where you're speaking about that, when I'm driving or if I'm in an interest, getting ready to do something that could tend to be a little risky or fearful, whatever, I'm like, thank you for your shield of protection. Psalms 91 has every protection promise in one chapter. Thank you, thank you, thank you for Psalms 91 protecting around my car, my kids, my house, the storms that were coming through. I was like, peace be still. Thank you, thank you, thank you for allowing my protection. And I have story after story after story about how that manifests out. So, those are reminders to claim your authority, to claim your protection around those little fears. And you may have met something you may have met a critter, but I guarantee you, if you're walking in that authority and shield of protection, he would have looked at you and gone, she don't taste good.
Wait, go back and tell me about this gunpoint thing. I don't know, maybe you've talked about that on a show I missed, but what in the world?
Outrageously courageous, bold faith, no fear, step towards the gun will be my third published book, my third individual. I've got some compilations, but that one, I literally had who I say I am is bold faith, no fear. I've said for years. I don't know why I started saying it, but I do know that's who I call myself for years. And in 2017, I was robbed at gunpoint and had a gun right here at my head. And they said, give me your purse, give me your keys. And I had no fear. Stepped towards them. I said, you need love. And they ran. And so the story isn't being robbed. The story is the no fear, because who I say I am. And my second book is called Split Second Transformation, Change Your Words, Change Your Life, 31 Daily Practices, Change Your Words, Change Your Life. who I say I am, what I say after I am. It's very consistent when you stand in your authority to have this fearlessness, this outrageously courageous who I am, outrageously optimistic. I say who I want to be, and it is who I am because I use those words. And I cannot tell you how much it matters to quit claiming things you don't want. Like, this job is killing me. Stop it. Just stop it. No, I've got a great job. I'm still breathing free. I have a mentor. He says, keep breathing free oxygen. And I'm like, yeah, I'm breathing free oxygen on this side of the dirt. And I'm in Texas, it's like, so,
I think of
we got to keep that. It doesn't mean things are perfect, right? It does not mean things are perfect. Circumstances are not perfect. You heard part of my story about my last, it's just like, I live in chaos. And it's not who I am. The circumstances are not me. Who I am is a child of the Most High God. Who I am is bold faith, no fear. Who I am is outrageously courageous and protected. So speak what you want.
I'm thinking about some of the ladies listening with us today and thinking, I want to be like that. I don't know how to get started. I haven't been held at gunpoint, but I can sure tell you this, and this is about to knock me over upside down. But I think embracing change might be the first step. And
change is inevitable. I mean, there is, you've heard it said, the only constant is change. I mean, there is not one second that is different. This is a way to do that, by the way. And I interrupted you. I apologize.
That's okay.
You think?
So what I was gonna
think
say
about that.
A lot of times I learn by what I'm observing in the natural world, what's going around. And across the street today, there was all this heavy duty construction equipment. And on our road, we've had a problem with really heavy rain. The grass had overgrown so that the water didn't pool down into the drain like it was supposed to. It flooded the road. So, in Florida, when we have a hurricane, then the water's running over everywhere and it's dangerous. But everybody kind of gotten comfortable. We mowed the grass, it stayed in its place. And when the guys came today, they had this like big grader and they had a dump truck and they're like scraping about 8 to 10 inches of soil and sod down so that where the road is, the sod is now below. And nobody, I mean, it's kind of unsightly and nobody really wants change. But once we start it, we're working for a better goal. We're working for something that's got more protection, that isn't just letting a long-term latent problem continue because trying to fix it is a little inconvenient. So maybe as we kind of wrap up today, if I could encourage anyone, I would say, see change as an opportunity. When I left the classroom, it didn't feel like an opportunity at the time. It felt like a loss. But now looking back almost 3 years and 5 book contracts, I could not have done what's happened the last 3 years if there hadn't been some serious road grading to move away things that were blocking a flow to something new and better.
That's amazing. And I'm sure, so what kept coming to me, and it's noisy. It isn't pretty, this, and it's like, what the heck? I can't even hear myself think. There's all this trucks and, noise. And so it doesn't always, changes very rarely smooth sailing. And we get caught in our little comfort zone sometimes and just our little routines. And it's really not a bad exercise to change something up. Use your opposite hand sometimes, just change something up because it stirs up things in your brain. These cells in your brain are, that might be a little complacent, and they can start, that's weird. I don't, brush your teeth with your other hand. You're like, that is so weird. But it's smart for you to do. Get out of the bed on the other side. Do something occasionally that's not your normal. We need our normal patterns. We need our habits, because otherwise we'd have to stop and think about everything. So that's not bad. But every once in a while, if you shift something up, you might find, a little bit more uh, um, creativity showing up and flowing.
You make me think of, I like to walk around the neighborhood. There's like a pond. And so I try to walk my old dog. And now that I'm feeling better, I actually can walk again and not have pain. But there's another dog a few houses down that he and my dog fight. It's not good. And so I'm dreading it, because I'm thinking, I don't want my dog to pull my back. I don't want to have an incident. I don't want to have conflict with my neighbor. So I don't know, for weeks, I've left that part of the walk at the very end, and I dread it the whole doggone time. Is the dog going to be loose? Is he going to come out? Is the owner going to help? Blah, blah, blah. So yesterday I thought, enough of this. So I changed the loop, the way that I went, and I took the hard part first. And the rest of the walk was so peaceful and relaxed. And it's like, you goober, why didn't you think of this before? Why do you let anxiety come in and just
Steal your
disturb you?
peace.
Yeah, for something that might not even happen. And another piece of advice that my dad has given my sisters and I is, do the hard thing first. Because
Eat that frog.
if you do the hard thing first, everything else is easier psychologically. So anyone that's struggling with stuff right now, whether it's a relationship or a profession or neighbors, commit tomorrow morning, or maybe even tonight, to doing the hard thing first and implementing a change that will bring you little by little by little to a place that's so much healthier and productive.
Great word there. So I'm just going to shift, and just for the last couple of minutes, I would like for you to talk about, we've covered a lot of things, right? So I'd like for you to mention the name of your novel and the reason behind it, right? And before, I just remembered Matthew 7:7, your favorite verse. Well, we can do all things, right? All three things through Christ, right? So there's the authority again. And I know often we don't feel powerful, but when we know that we have the confidence and that God is in us and Christ is in us, and that we have this authority that he gave us to step towards the gun, to take that walk, to go a different direction, to do one little thing different, we change our lives for the better, and we change, for most other people around us, if we change our legacy, literally.
So the novel is titled Who Brought the Dog to Church? And it actually started in a church 12 years ago. At the time, I was serving as a volunteer advocate for women who were fleeing domestic violence, or were in situations of domestic violence and trying to get help working through. And I found during that experience, it went across every ethnicity, every age group, every socioeconomic. And the driving passion behind the book, and not giving up on it for 12 years, is that there are people suffering in silence, that are ashamed, they're scared, and they don't know where to go for help. And there are friends and family who love these people and don't know how to help. So the novel has a lot of humor. It's a small town where these three friends have all kinds of crazy antics, but under the surface, their heart is to help people who are hurting And the way the book is written, there's a lot of conversation. What is the church's role if there's a marriage with domestic violence? What's the responsibility to children? What are the economic realities? So it's on Amazon, and I have made a series of videos on my YouTube channel with some teaching points from the Duluth model of the power and control wheel with their permission, that shows the types of controls. And it's not limited just to men controlling women. There are also women who are controlling men. But the idea is to put the conversation out there so that there's no shame. How can we improve the situation? How can we empower people for healthy change? My other book is called Refuge of Grace, Finding Your Safe Place. I wrote that during COVID while I was teaching in a public school classroom, and we just had a revolving door with quarantine. But the idea is, where do we find security when everything in life is topsy-turvy, whether it's the medical world, the financial world, our professional background, or a family crisis? Where can we go to stand on God's promises that there's a way through? So thank you. Thank you for having me today, Charla. I look forward to spending more time together, and I'd love to know more about your workshop topics as you have that kind of finalized. Please keep me posted.
Absolutely. You're just a real calming spirit. You really have a beautiful demeanor, a message that matters, and to address in a novel the hard issues, without graphic. I know you're really concerned about being respectful of language and and maintaining a tight, the Christian principles, the Christian values, so to speak. And a lot of our churches in the past have failed our people because they stuck their head in the sand or took one side or the other in relationship issues.
Well, the books are so PG that my publisher edited out the word darn. There's no violent scene of someone being attacked. I mean, if we want to see that, we can go to the movies. I'm looking for, how do we promote healing? And I think part of it is the psychology. How do you get trapped? And what are the things that hold us hostage mentally? And that's in Refuge of Grace, as well as Who Brought the Dog to Church. So I hope that the writing will bring strength to people and invite conversations where we can be real and not feel like we have to be perfect and say what's appropriate, and inside we're just a wreck.
So yeah, this facade, authenticity, maybe you can't use this word, but I call it authenticity is the new sexy. I mean, if you're not real, don't come near, and be you, be funny, be silly, be one of my guests, I said, quirky is a new sexy name. I'm texting that because he's quirky as all get out, and he's so much fun. He sent it to his wife. He's like, this is great. So we want to be real, and discourse has been eliminated in so many of our societies. When they say we can't talk about anything but religion and government, politics, you can't talk. Well, if you can't talk about those things, then they get left without discourse, without the common thread of conversation and learning from each other, right? So discourse is missing, and people and getting offended, I'm going to call it a spirit of offense, people getting offended by every little thing. And then get over yourself, build a bridge and get over it, is what my sister would say. Oh, so goodness, all that octogenarian shenanigans was the name of that show. She thought it was hysterical. So anyway, So as we kind of close out now, thank you for sharing your books, your message, your peacefulness, your beautiful photos. And I really encourage anybody. So we can go to tracysmoak.com, TracySmoak.com. And that's going to be probably the simplest place to find you as you go on YouTube, and look for Tracy Smoak. And, in your mind, you might spell that smoke a little differently, but that's SMOAK. Since this will be out on post, it'll be on podcast, so people won't be watching to see how it looks sometimes. So this has been a beautiful time today. I thank you so much. Is there anything you want to just leave here with the audience and just offer out there?
I would just say, Charla, thank you for seeing me and respecting that I have something I can share with you. You were talking about discourse, and I think people have been wounded and disrespected. And if we can put back in the equation with our next door neighbor, with the person on the bus beside us, with the person in the grocery store behind us, that we see them as unique, beautiful individuals who may differ wildly from us, and we respect what they have to bring to the conversation, I think that would change a lot of ripple effects, and it would impact the trajectory of legacy. It's not that it's my way. It's like, can we find a sacred space where I see you and invite you to share who you are and where you are? That's what I hope we can do.
And it's so, I mean, this is not about religion. None of this that I talk about is about religion. I believe religion is kind of God in a box. So God loves, this is what I want you to hear. God loves, and God loves, I mean, that's it. If God loves, he can't not love. And I guarantee you, if you start looking at people as, well, God loves them. God created them. He may not like what they do, but he loves them. He loves the murderer as much as he loves you. I mean, I don't think he has a qualifying love. If God is love, he can't be not love. He loves every single creation that he has made. And so a lot of times we lose sight of the fact that, well, they're so different, or they're so weird, or they don't match me. And, God loves them too. And so should we love, unconditional love. Unconditional. Okay, this is a hint towards my workshop. Okay. Unconditional love, unconditional forgiveness, not unconditional boundaries. Okay. So we're not talking unconditional boundaries, right? At all. However, the unconditional love and the unconditional forgiveness are huge, and boundaries, we need them, but not an exclusion of others. And the harder they are to love, the more they need it. That's the deal. So thank you, Tracy, for joining me today. So very grateful that you took your time, and we'll have this out on podcast pretty soon, and it'll be in infamy and our legacy, won't it? Because once it's on the internet, it doesn't go away. So I'm grateful that we got to do this, and that you took the beautiful time out of your day. And I just sending you, just prayers for healing, and keep that back strong, because, by his stripes we are healed. We got to start, claim it, and keep walking in that. And it's the truth. So blessings to you. And when I end this, I always am saying, I want to just say, God loves you exactly who and where you are. Nothing you can do to be loved more or less by God or me. And I'm guessing, or Tracy. So let's just remember and then we always end with always, and choose joy.
Parting is such sweet sorrow. The Charla Anderson Show, encouraging you to stand strong and courageous with bold faith, no fear, immense hope, kindness, and love, especially towards yourself. Visit charlaanderson.com for replays, blogs, and more on her ever-expanding website, as well as watch her live TV show on winwinwomen.tv, Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon Fire. And so that we can continue learning together and growing this community of beautiful souls, we invite you to share the Charla Anderson Show with your circle of friends. Until we meet again next week, remember always, choose joy.